All right, let's talk some Eagles draft here. So, Eagles players, what they got in this draft, the headliner is someone who they did not draft, but they used a first round pick in this draft to get AJ Brown, which I'm just a fan of this move. I just am. AJ Brown is an awesome player. He's someone who I think will fit this team well because he can do different things, right? You already have quick guys. Quez Watkins is really good in his role. Obviously, Devonta Smith, really good in his role and then some. AJ Brown also really good at what he can do. He can win on the outside. He was kind of brought in to be like a slot over the middle guy, but who has potential to do stuff on the outside, and he's just completely knocked that out of the park. Proven no, he can win on the outside consistently. So having a big physical guy for Jalen Hurts to throw to is good. And again, games are won and lost and on the receiving core. And one thing we saw in that playoff game was you did see sometimes Jalen Hurts didn't quite have the arm strength to fit it through some of these tight windows. That happened. He isn't Patrick Mahomes, but also guys weren't getting open enough consistently in that game, so they weren't giving him enough time to be able to get the ball there. That was the other aspect. So for the Eagles getting AJ Brown will just allow for not only him to be able to get separation, but now you can use these guys in different ways. You can use AJ Brown to run a setup route for Smith. You can use Smith to run a setup route for Brown. Two boring names with Smith and Brown, but two exciting players. So huge fan of that move right off the bat, especially when Hollywood Brown went for similar values. So yeah, get AJ Brown, who is still going to be cheap for at least a year. So you got that. Moving on, 13, Jordan Davis, who also I should set up what you're looking at. The numbers are, so the number all the way to the left, that's when these players got drafted. The number right next to their name, where they ranked on the consensus big board. And Jordan Davis here, who went 13th overall, 15th on the consensus big board. I was a bit lower on than most, but this is kind of the dream scenario for. So my issue with Davis, what I've always said about him is he's kind of a one-trick pony, but he's amazing at that trick. He's very much he's going to just, put hands on your chest and push you backwards a yard every play for 300 snaps a year. That's pretty much what he's going to definitely give you for the Eagles. The issue is, not the best pass rusher. And I think that, his run defense, it was very good and very impressive. And, you can't put a number on just how physically imposing he is and how much extra resources you have to spend on that stuff. But it's just how valuable is that for 300 snaps a year? What I will say is, and again, I'm saying 300 snaps a year. That's what he did. He never got to 400 snaps in a season. Part of that is the way the Georgia defense runs their defense, but also part of it was I saw Davis taking snaps off because he was just tired. Because again, he's a huge guy. Maybe he's going to slim down a little bit, but then are you losing some of his power? I don't know. But I did see him take some snaps off just because he's big, not because he's lazy, but just it's hard to be successful at that size. But that's probably why you put him in a defense like the Eagles, which like to rotate guys, and they like to play a lot of cover two zones. So if you are playing this cover two zone, what are you going to do? You're going to have to make sure that you can stop the run because you don't have an extra safety in the box. So because of that, Davis will do that. So while I'm not as high on Davis as others, if he's going to go to a situation, this is a solid situation for him. At 51, we had a surprise where the Eagles, who don't need a center, they drafted one last year. They're going with Cam Jurgens here. So maybe they just like him. Maybe they feel as though he can play different positions, or maybe it's just another, just have another guy in the room because at pick 51, he was 101 on the consensus big board. This was, quite frankly, the Eagles draft makes a lot more sense if you swapped Jurgens and Nakobe Dean around, because they then got Nakobe Dean, who was 30th in the consensus big board at 83rd. Apparently, there were some injury concerns that no one in the media knew about until after he started falling. So I guess that's why he fell so much. But, for a pick 83, that's worth taking a chance on, in my opinion. Dean has some really good traits and was a great run defender. And one thing that you could argue about with Dean was how much of what he did was simply just what was set up by the great Georgia defensive line? Guess where he's going? A team with a great defensive line and a lot of depth at the defensive line position. So he should still be able to make those cleanup tackles and all of that good stuff. Incredible blitzer, which, the Eagles didn't do a ton of last year. They kind of, played one coverage for the most part. Not obviously not exactly, but they like to play a lot of cover too. But maybe this means that with Dean, they're going to mix things up more, or maybe they said, hey, this isn't the perfect fit, but you know what? You're a talented player, so let's draft you at 83 and make it work, which I can't complain on. With the final two picks, again, not a ton of draft picks, only five draft picks for the Eagles. But you know what? You can afford to do this when you have a quarterback on a rookie deal. You don't, part of what makes having draft capital so important is you can get guys for cheap. But for the Eagles, it's not as big of a deal because they already have a quarterback on a rookie deal. So you get to spend more money than other teams do. So you can make an A.J. Brown trade. They get Kyron Johnson, who is an edge player with the 181st pick. He was 258 on the consensus big board. He is someone who I guess is more of a speed edge rusher type, which those guys don't often translate too well to the NFL. So, okay, maybe there's some concern there. But again, pick 181, whatever. If you like him for any reason, go ahead and take that chance. Also, with tight end position at 198, Grant Kerta. I should know how to say that name because he was someone who got talked about a decent amount. He was, some people had him as like a top 5 tight end. I did not. One thing, a bit older for sure. I guess he's someone who can probably be a solid, maybe tight end too. Could maybe be a receiving tight end type guy. So I'm definitely not as high on him as some were. But granted, some people thought he should be like a top 100 pick maybe. To me, at this value, I'm actually fine with it. I think it's a good pick. It's probably a very good pick, actually. I'm surprised he fell this far. He's right around where the consensus big board had him. I'm just saying I saw some rumblings of him going a lot earlier. So, again, who knows with that stuff, but maybe he can play special teams if nothing else. So, as a whole, with this selection, just a lot of talented guys that they added. I mean, Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis, and A.J. Brown. That's basically the draft. That's what you got. And another thing about the Eagles that I think some people don't fully realize, I don't think they had a ton of holes. Some people felt like they should add defensive back depth, and they could have, but I don't think they needed to necessarily. So I'm not that concerned about it. And listen, there still is, free agency available. So the A.J. Brown trade, obviously an A+, and the Jordan Davis pick, I'm sure many have an A+, and I would have the Nakobe Dean pick an A+. So that alone, it's adding some stuff, even with, didn't fully understand the Jurgens pick, but we'll see how it goes. So, yeah, that's what I think. What do you guys think? What were your thoughts on the Eagles draft? Always love hearing from you. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.